Now, we often like to highlight when people are making a difference within their communities or further afield sometimes as well, because we know so many Cumbrians who are doing incredible things, and time again we hear about amazing challenges. And this guy, who we're going to be hearing from in just a moment, is incredible. He's preparing for a pretty daunting, I think that might be an understatement, series of physical challenges, and it's all to raise money in memory of his wife, who died from bowel cancer. Next month it is Bowel Cancer Awareness Month, and it's one of those serious illnesses that you know all about if it's affected someone you know or you. But if not, then you may not know too much about it. Andrew Yeats from Kendal lost his wife Cinders, who was also known as Lucy, to bowel cancer in 2022. And he's since put his energies into raising awareness about it. And it's taken a lot of energy so far, with a lot more to come. I've been speaking to Andrew and asked him first to tell me all about his late wife.
Well, Cinders was the most wonderful person, and she was really healthy, really active. We'd worked together as Himalayan mountain guides and architects, and she was busy running the Wainwright, and she was trying to break some weird record to be the first person to run up all the Wainwrights while holding a full conversation, because she was a complete chatterbox and she loved talking to friends. She was a mum of 2 kids and very strong and very capable. But we went for a trek in Ladakh with the family, and we took our 2 younger children, and she was suddenly tired and way back and struggling. And when we got home, she had irritable bowel syndrome. And long story short, it took about 3 months to get her checked out. And then we suddenly realized with the colonoscopy that she had a tumour the size of a tangerine in her colon.
Wow.
And at the time, they thought it was stage 2 and could be operable and she'd be fine. And they did do the operation, and she did have a year of kind of relief. But it turns out when they took the first MRI scan, she already had shadows on her lung, and they, in fact, were already growing tumours. So she was diagnosed at stage 4 at the age of 54, having been one of the healthiest, happiest-go-lucky people you could imagine. And we suddenly realised that we'd completely missed all the early symptoms of bowel cancer because we knew nothing about them. There was no publicity. Her dad had been a GP. We had several GP friends. And we're not daft. We're kind of moderately intelligent, regular people. And I mean, the combination of other illnesses hid all the key symptoms. So for some weird reason, Cinders got glandular fever, and that kind of really knocked her immune system. And that was about 5 years previous to the diagnosis. And then that glandular fever morphed into the menopause. And every time, she had any kind of symptom and we kind of asked about it, people said, oh, it'll be the menopause. It's the menopause. If you're super tired and whatever, mood changes or whatever goes on in your life as a middle-aged woman, it seems that anybody could pin it on menopause rather than something more significant. And it was only really after the irritable bowel syndrome coming back from Asia that we kind of pressed a bit harder to find out more what was going on. And it became clear that we'd totally missed everything. So we thought that if that could happen to us, it could happen to loads and loads of other people. And Cinders was actually very shy and very private, and she wouldn't want a public persona at all. But what she thought is that she wanted her story to be told. And if by spreading the awareness of what to look out for and what to be mindful of, we might save somebody else's life, and some other mother, may survive because they can catch it early on. And if you can catch bowel cancer in stage 1 or stage 2, then, there's a really high chance of success of, living a good life. But if you miss all those early symptoms and you get to stage 3 or 4, you've lost it. There's no chance. So the idea was, when she died, is that we would tell her story and try and raise awareness and also raise funds for Bowel Cancer UK, who are sort of doing a priority campaign this year to raise awareness. And as I understand it, bowel cancer kills 1 in 18 women, and it's mostly unreported. There's lots of publicity about breast cancer, Women have screening for cervical cancer from quite early on. And in all of the rest of Europe, colonoscopy screening for bowel cancer is done at the age of 50. And for some weird reason in England, it's 60. So had Cinders been scanned at 50, she'd still be alive now. She'd be here now talking to you. And we'd be going off to the Himalayas, and she'd still be running the Wainwrights. So if you don't get screened and you don't pick up on the symptoms, then by the age of 60, it's almost too late, really.
Yeah, and like you say about, not knowing the symptoms, but having a pretty good knowledge of health and signs for other cancer to look out for. And for you to say that how healthy she was, how active she was, and it just goes to show that it can hit anybody.
It can, yeah. And it can hit young people, it doesn't have to be older people. There's plenty of people die in their 20s and 30s with bowel cancer, but there's very little reporting or, awareness raising. You go to a GP practice and there's loads of posters about prostate cancer for men, breast cancer for women, and you never see anything about bowel cancer, but it's one of the biggest killers. So part of our little campaign is to sort of raise awareness. And because we were an active family and, I can't just sit at home moaning about nobody knows about bowel cancer. So I've set myself all these little challenges as a kind of hook or a storyline.
Hang on, Andrew, hang on. You said little challenges. These are huge challenges.
Well, they are huge, but if I'm being absolutely honest, they're just like one step in front of the other. They're just one turn of a pedal after another. They're just 1 mile across an ocean, then another mile. Anyone can do these things. It's just I have a particular interest in doing them, and I've done them for most of my life, so they seem moderately normal to me. And I'm quite canny how I do them so that they're not too stressful.
So tell me about the challenges that you've set yourself.
Well, the ones that I've done so far, which I did last year, which was the start of it, really, I did a traverse of the Pyrenees from the Atlantic to the Mediterranean, which was over 800 miles. And I did that because Cinders and I started that trek. It's called the GR11, and it goes across the top of all of the peaks of the Pyrenees. And we started that before we had kids, and it was our retirement plan. As soon as the kids finished school, we'd go back and finish it off. And sadly, that didn't happen. Lucy hung on till my son got his A-level results, and then she died. So that summer, I went back and completed that trek in her name. And it was amazing. I really, really enjoyed it. It was a very kind of grieving, easy place to be by myself in the mountains. I walked every day for a month, and I saw 3 people that could speak English in a month. So I was on my own basically all that time for a month in the high mountains. And it was a huge healing process for me. So then when I got back, Cinders had also bought me the Corsica GR20, which in theory is meant to be the hardest trek in Europe across the mountains of Corsica. And she gave me the book and said, can you do it one way for you and do it one way for me? Because I'm not here to do it. So I did that, and I just skipped along and sailed along because I travel really light. I have a base weight of about 3 kilos, which includes my tent, my food, my cooking. And I just don't take any trousers, just take a pair of shorts and a T-shirt. And I basically just jog really slowly and really gently. And I can sustain that for like 30, 40 miles a day. It comes easy for me because I'm traveling light. And then while I was there, I had a dream about taking all of the rest of the family to the Himalayas, and particularly the next generation of Cinders' family, which was my own daughter and son, Freddie and Iona, and her nieces. And in the dream, I gave them a lock of hair from Cinders, and then we ran the Everest Marathon, which is a high altitude mountain marathon. And that was the dream I had. And wouldn't that be lovely? And so I rang the family from Corsica to suggest that. And unfortunately, not all of them could come, but I did get 10 family members and Cinders' closest friends to sign up to it. So I took a youth group of mostly 20-year-olds to the Himalayas, and we set the challenge of climbing twice the height of Everest. So we did 60,000 feet spread over